Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Today is October 24, 2022, and this is your Monday market update. It's good to be back on Monday. So back to the program we've been on. Let's recap last week and preview this week. Since we've already spoken about Monday and Tuesday on last Wednesday's video, I'll hit them fast and move on. Monday, we gapped open higher on the open, closed near the highs for the day, mostly on the news about the about face from the UK, and little did we know that story was still in development. Wait for it in a few minutes. The Dow was up almost 2%, S&P up over 2.5%, and the NASDAQ was up almost 3.5%. Going into Tuesday, the Dow was up 6% from Friday's low, S&P and NASDAQ both up 5% from Friday's lows. Tuesday ended in the green again. All three indices up about 1% for the day. NASDAQ was red twice during the day, and the Dow was up 600 before closing up 300. Hump Day Wednesday looked like it might make it 3 in a row. Overnight earnings from United Airlines and Netflix were good enough to have some positive overnight moves. Then, oh yeah, eco numbers. This time it was UK CPI up 10.1%, way too hot, and that weighed on risk assets. Again, we are juggling many different news sources for the spark to light this or relight this market. Eco data, that's the inflation indicators, the Fed and other central banks, and earnings. Which one of those will be the one to move these markets? The S&P 500 defended the 3,700 level most of the day, and the markets did close near the middle of the day's range. S&P did not hold 3,700. There was a slight note positive note when Fed head Kashkari talked about the possibility of pausing the hikes next year sometime. Not sure why that's news. The Dow was down about 1/3 of 1%, S&P down a bit over 1/2 of 1%, and the NASDAQ down just over 1%. Stocks open pretty stable on Thursday. Tesla disappointed. German PPI was hot. Then, as I told you, the developing story, the UK Prime Minister, Truss, made a new UK record for the shortest stint as PM. That's 45 days as she resigned. Now the news will be who will take over. The weekend had questions about Boris Johnson, fresh off of his resignation due to all the scandals. Until Sunday night, many people thought he'd win, divide the country more, but he might have won. But as of Sunday night, all the reports were that he was withdrawing or never getting in. Regardless, 45 days and out, that was good news for the markets, but not good enough to offset the Fed heads. Harker's back on the higher for longer story. The Dow was down 1/3 of 1%, S&P down almost 1%, and the NASDAQ down a bit over 0.5%. Stocks climbed on Friday as another volatile week came to an end, and one of the better weeks it was. After opening flat for the day, the Fed whisperer from the Wall Street Journal, Nick Timiraos, floated the possibility of a 50 basis point move in December. That's news. Everyone seemed to be pricing in 75 basis points. The market acted like this was going to be the pivot, but I have to say we still have a little to go on that end. The stocks were off to the races regardless. Just on Friday, the Dow was up close to 750 points, almost 2.5%, S&P up 2.37%, and NASDAQ up 2.31%. If you've been paying attention in the last few weeks of these videos, what did we just see on Friday? Recap. All three indices up about 2 1/3% of the day. Pop quiz, what does that smell like? Yes, you guessed it, the algos. Yes, the computers realized that in addition to some news here and there, we were oversold, and there was the spark. Maybe the UK, maybe earnings, something in combustion. Again, when all three indices are up about the same percentage, that is what it smells like to me, is that the computers are doing that. For the week, this was a good one. S&P up 4.7%, Dow was up 4.9%, and the NASDAQ up 5.2%. Again, that's for the week. This was all while the dollar is still seeing new highs. The U.S. Treasury bonds are the highest they've been since 2008. On the other side, as I've been telling you, I feel that this has been baked in, priced in already. The Fed heads are starting to float the trial balloons again. The Wall Street Journal last week reported that there are some Fed heads that are worried about the oversteer, going too far too fast. Well, who could blame them? This is the fastest moves we made in a long time. The last time we saw a 75 basis point hike was in 1994, and we've seen now already many of them. As always, there's a reason for the balloons, and the Fed heads talking at every chance they get. They are now in the blackout period, so only one left to talk about. This is going to be the Wall Street Journal reporter. We'll see if we hear more from him. Just to fill in the upcoming calendar. The Fed is meeting next November 1 and 2. Yes, right before the midterms, and then again December 13 and 14, then into 2023, January 31st, February 1. And to fill in a bit of what the Fed's watching, there will be 5 more big numbers reported before the end of this year. PCE, that's October 28, November 30th, and and November 30th, 2 of those. CPI and PPI, November 10 and 15, and again December 9 and 13. 4 of the 5 of those will be between meetings. Make no mistake about it, this will determine where we go next. So the here and now. This week we're going to get a huge amount of earnings, and the big question, over 165 companies will be reporting. Did we lower the bar low enough to keep the incremental beat of estimates going? I said incremental, right? Remember the incremental versus absolute that I've been talking about for 2 years now. We'll see if earnings beat. Is it really better? Valuation does matter again. To see if they matter, big names this week: Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, and Microsoft. I guess people will take note of those. Oh yeah, maybe a few smaller ones: Boeing, Coke, Ford, General Motors. You know, the list is a who's who of stocks, of companies. We also get the PMI Monday. Today, housing and consumer confidence readings on Tuesday. Anyone want to guess what that's going to look like? Wednesday brings some other eco data, just filling in dead air. Light vehicle sales, inventories, new home sales. We'll report them, but they're not the big numbers we're being watched. Employment again on Thursday, along with Q3 GDP. Finally, we'll end the week with that PCE that I told you about. That is the favorite, along with the University of Michigan surveys. So going into this week, we'll see if earnings steal the show. What will come across, what will happen and come across from across the pond. As I mentioned, we will not hear anything from the Fed until November 2nd. Until then, please recall that we need to keep our eyes on the long term. This information drills down on the Monday video, but it still can be used to properly plan for your financial future. We have a lot to do in the next few months. Stay in touch and know that the Friday planning videos are outlining our current strategy. I'll be back this coming Friday with another installment. Until then, have a great week.